Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Dr. Josh McWealth Unamba, an organizational psychologist, entrepreneur, and success coach. And he has a unique approach to transforming stress into a powerful catalyst for growth. We learn all about that. And he's on a mission to help individuals break free from burnout, overwhelm, and self doubt so that they can lead more confident, purposeful lives. Welcome to the show, Dr. Josh.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Dr. Josh. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to learn from you, talk about. We'll learn from you about how one can transform their stress into their successful catalyst. In this backdrop, we'll have our conversation. But before that, Dr. Josh, if you can learn a bit more about you, your journey, your background, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on the show. I'm Dr. Josh, and I am an organizational psychologist. I'm an entrepreneur. I am a success coach. And what I do is I help people transform stress into success, crisis into clarity. And I do this by showing science-backed frameworks and strategies that help build resilience, that help move the thinking process from stress and challenges to opportunities. As someone who has lived the path myself from going through burnout to breakthrough, wearing different hats as an entrepreneur and as a dad and as a leader, just all the different facets of life, having gone through burnout to breakthrough, I know what it feels like. I know what it means and what it feels like to be stuck in this hamster wheel, chaotic experience that we call a stressful life. But I also know that stress does not have to be the enemy. It does not have to be our adversary. In fact, we should be happy to deal with stressful situations if we know how to manage it properly and how to use it to transform our situations for growth and resilience. And so my work focuses on identifying stress before it becomes overwhelm and burnout, using it as a stepping stone for growth and development, basically surviving and thriving within stressful situations, and just figuring out how to repeat that cycle, rinse, repeat over and over again to develop resilience. And so whether it's a keynote speech or a podcast like yours or a coaching session, my mission is very simple, and that is to just scream as loud as I can to tell people stress does not have to be the enemy. Let's take stress and let's use it as a catalyst. Let's use it as fuel, like rocket fuel, for growth and development. When unmanaged, it can be catastrophic. It goes from stress to overwhelm, to chronic stress, to chronic health issues, to burnout, and life could be disastrous, right? But when properly harnessed and managed, stress could be the very thing that catapults you to great heights.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, if someone listens to you, Dr. Josh, and he thinks, okay, I can use stress to my advantage as a catalyst, does that mean that, for a common person, lay person like me, should I increase stress in my life to use it as a catalyst, or should I decrease it?
There's a state where you're in, where what I call a stable state, and some psychologists call it a state of balance, where everything is just mellow and chill, right? Where you have zero stress, nothing is bothering you, you have no stress, you have no challenges. And then you have a state right above that I call tensive, where you start to feel that tension and anxiety. And from there, you have another stage that's more critical, what I call crisis. And that's when it starts to blow off the lid and things get really bad. You don't want to be at the stage where you have no stress at all, because then you get comfortable and complacent, right? And then life gets just dull and boring. you want a little stress. But the big question now is how do we take stress and finesse it so well that we can control how much stress we're dealing with at any given time? How do we make sure stress does not blow off the lid? How do we keep it manageable? How do we keep it to be good stress? Because we do want good stress. If you don't have stress at all, you don't have that push. I call it the edge of chaos. You've got to have something that pushes you somewhat to the edge of chaos to take that next step and that next step. You don't want to sit at a comfortable place of no stress and complacency, right?
Right, right. So how do I know where I am on this barometer? Means I should know. And how would I know whether I am a fit case to, for stress, to be able to manage stress, or should I be, because not everyone is made the same way, Dr. Josh. I may be a overthinker, and the stress might lead to much more overthinking and overthinking. So I should put my energies on managing stress, or should I think of using that as a catalyst? There are several things from a common person's perspective. Dr. Josh, you are an expert, you know about these things. I want you to elaborate on this, because stress can be sudden. Somebody tells me
Yeah.
something, it can lead to stress. Should I stress myself to think, okay, let me change it into a catalyst, or should I think, so it's only in that moment, not something which is a very planned way. So help us understand from
Absolutely.
both those perspectives.
And that's such a great question. When I refer to stress, I refer to specifically a prolonged negative response to how we interpret our environment around us, and that results in a further negative action and reaction, right? So every day that you step outside your home, you're faced with society, right? You are faced with pressures, you're faced with expectations. Your brain has to process all of this. So you take all the stuff in, and primarily one or more of your five senses receives this information. This information goes into your body, and it lands into what I call the database of our body. And when you think about the body, just think about an ecosystem that has about 50 trillion living cells, and each cell is just doing its thing, right? And the database of this ecosystem is our mind. The control center, the king of the kingdom, is our brain, right? And so as all of this information comes in, it's going into this database. Our brain is receiving that information, and through the limbic system, right? It's receiving this information and sending into our body's neurotransmitters that are either defining our emotional states. So whether it's a pleasurable state or a stressful state, right? And just to be more specific, for example, if you see something and you're either, our brain is wired to keep us safe, right? So it's constantly assessing, is he safe? Is he not safe? Is he feeling threatened, or is he safe? Once you see something that's a threat, whether it's a financial threat, whether it's an emotional threat, whatever type of threat that is, and that information goes into that database, your mind, and now you're thinking and you're processing that information. Now you're communicating with your brain. Now your brain says, oh man, here's trouble. Oh, here's trouble. Now your brain tells your adrenal gland, here's trouble. The limbic system talks to your adrenal gland, here's trouble, and it sends out to your liver cortisol, sends out to your heart adrenaline. Now your heart starts to beat more. Your liver opens up the floodgates of sugar into your body. You are energized, right? So, in a good sense, you have this God-given energy to move quicker. Your extremities receive a lot more nutrients all of a sudden because your body wants to help you fight or flight if it feels like it's getting threatened. So at that initial stage, it's not a danger. It's not necessarily a bad thing because you get that. It's like if you drank a Red Bull, right? This is like God's gift to you. Say, well, here's your Red Bull. You don't need a Red Bull. Here's a Red Bull. Now you can move quicker. You have more nutrients and more resources going to your arms and your legs. Now you can move faster, and your eyes, you have that tunnel vision. You can see things. So your biological setup is wired to protect you and to keep you safe. Now, at the point though that this gets prolonged and it doesn't go back to a state of balance, then you start getting to the point where it becomes unmanageable. So understanding the feelings that come with each stage, or if you're in a tensive stage, how do you know? First, you have to establish your baseline. Like, what's your baseline of when you're not stressed at all, right? Versus when you feel a little stress, how do you start to feel? And then when you start getting into a stage of crisis, how do you feel at that stage? And by the way, at that point, then we start getting into the destruction mode, right? Where we're not only getting destroyed internally, we start engaging as well in destructive behavior, right? And so calming the mind, calming the body, right, and calming our behavior are the three-pronged framework to dealing with this. If your mind's not calm, you're going to be out of whack. If your body is not calm, you're going to be out of whack. And then your behavior follows suit, right? And by the way, your behaviors affect your thought, which is the processing center. Your mind, which is the processing center, generates thought. Your thought generates your emotion because your brain is pushing those neurotransmitters. Your emotion generates your decisions, right? Because you decide and you make decisions based on how you feel, right? And now your decisions drive your actions and behavior. Your actions and behavior determine how well you do in life overall, right? The habits that you form become your locked in patterns. And once you have locked in behavioral patterns, you tell me what your patterns are, and I will tell you where you're going in the next month, the next year, next 3 years, right? So it's all interconnected. If you can handle stress, you can handle your emotional state. If you can harness your stress management skills so well to where you can intentionally remain, get into and remain in a happy state emotionally, you have hacked the world of success. Because what the research done that said that wealth is not a result of money or anything that's outwardly material, right? It is a result of the richness of our experiences. And so if you're thinking like, well, what's a wealthy life? If you have money, that's great, but that does not mean you're wealthy. The richness of your experiences is what determines how wealthy you are. And what determines that, right? You have to engage in behavior that produces rich experiences in order to live a rich and wealthy life. What determines those behaviors? It's your emotional state. So again, you see how this comes around full circle, right? And so the bottom line is, if we are to live a happy, fulfilled life, we have to understand how to finesse and manage and harness the energy of stress.
Absolutely, absolutely. We'll come to the framework. You touched upon this framework thing a bit, but we'll come to it separately because I want to understand it for the audience so that they can remember it. But first, I want to understand, any prerequisites for that. Means God has made everyone in his or her own way, and so some of the things we have got inherent, and more or less. But how is it that I can use God's given things, and what are those things? And do I need to create some of these things from my own self? What are some of these things that I can create? Help us understand from that perspective, so that together with that, I put that into my own cauldron and create something that can, that can make something good, make it a nice catalyst for myself.
That's right. So certain things are constant, right? Like we know how our bodies work. My body, the mechanism of action of how stress works in my body would be similar to yours, right? Or your senses receive information, your mind processes it, your brain receives it from your mind, your brain pushes neurotransmitters, and that determines your emotional state. Your emotional state determines how you decide on what to do in life, and your behavioral patterns, and that determines the results that you see in life. This is basic. Like we know that this is predictable information across the board. This is what happens in humans. Now, let's go back though to what the brain really does. The brain, as it picks up on what the mind is doing, like what's happening in the database of the mind, it's looking at at the thoughts that are happening in your mind, but it does a couple of things that are very interesting. It make references to the past. It goes to your past to see. So everything that you remember, like whatever is in your memory bank from the past, has an emotional signature. In fact, you probably wouldn't remember it if it didn't have an emotional signature, right? You remember it because that experience came with an emotional signature, where maybe your first kiss, right? Or the birth of your child, right? It came with an emotional signature that makes it memorable. So the brain goes back to referencing the past, whether good or bad. So for people who have past experiences that are riddled with anxiety, depression, and maybe loss of loved ones, maybe a fear, right? A failure, abuse, all of those things from the past, right? The brain goes and still touches on those things, right? But the brain doesn't stop there. It also makes reference to future expectations. And this is where it gets very interesting, because it's not only looking at past experiences, it's looking at future expectations. And so even though your past may be just as bad as anyone can imagine, you can start undoing the power of the brain referencing your past by changing what your future expectations are. And how do you do that? And this goes back to part of what's in my framework, and I'm sure a lot of frameworks out there that work on this. Visualization. You have to experience what it is that you want in such a way. And let me start that by saying the brain has no idea what is in the past, what's in the present, or what's in the future. All it knows is emotional signatures. It's referencing emotional signatures. It doesn't care when that happened. So, having said that, what you might induce as an experience for the future, if you can engage those same five senses that are receiving information now in the present, if you can see it, smell it, taste it, touch it, hear it in your mind, right? You want a new car. If you can see that new car, but then you're feeling the brand new leather seats in the new car, you can smell that new car smell, right? You rev up the engine and you can hear all the sounds, like you are living the experience of that new car. Your brain doesn't know if it's in the future, past, present. It just knows that you're in this experience. What is an experience? Oxford Dictionary defines an experience as practical contact with or observation of a fact or an experience. So if you are or an event, a fact or an event. So if you are in the middle, if you're involved in an event, or if you're faced with something that's considered to be a fact, and you are practically connected somehow with that event, or you're just observing that event, that's an experience. So if you can practically connect with the future self that you want to be and observe that future self that you want to be using your five senses, This is so crucial because when people online or everywhere nowadays talk about manifestation, right? And you see people talk about affirmations, write it down, right? And that's great. You need to write it down, right? But if you don't experience it, if your brain does not consider that as an experience, if you cannot engage those senses in the realm of your mind, then it's not a true experience. It has to be a true experience. And once you can do that, then you have created an emotional signature that the brain can reference. So now it's not only having the past to reference, now it's going to the future. And I'm stressing this because your question says, what can we create? Right? So this is what we can create. We can create the person we want to be. And by the way, when you can do that, now you're putting yourself in a state where that database that we talked about, your mind, now that database is receiving this information of this positive expectation that you have for the future, for your future self. Now it's taking that and it's like, it's happy because this is good stuff, right? And so it receives that. Now your brain says, oh, we're safe. You're safe. You're safe to work. You're safe to create. You are safe. Now you have neurotransmitters that are pushed down into your body. Your brain's firing on all cylinders. Your heart is in sync with your brain and body. You're in a state of, I call expansive. This is what I call expansive, right? This is the point where you are creating things, right? And if you ask any successful person, how did you achieve success? If they would be honest with you, I don't know that you could find one person who would tell you, I didn't see it before it became my 3D reality, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well explained, Dr. Josh. Now, to understand these things, does it work differently in men and women, either in business setting or in individual setting? I see a tiger, we both run away, we go, we hide some into a cave. One person may think the tiger is still going to come in, and the other person feels safe. They are thinking differently. How does it work all in men and women? Does it work the same way or differently?
I think it's a matter of perspectives, right? It's not a gender exclusive thing necessarily, right? It's a processing thing. It's how you process it, and how you process it is it's how you process it. I think directly relates to your knowledge of what's happening and your ability to convert challenges into opportunities, right? You see a tiger, I see a tiger. In fact, you might see a tiger and you might say, oh, well, he looks friendly, and not even feel like you want to run at all. And you'll be the one, I'll go home and you end up in the tiger's belly, right? And so just the way people interpret things are vastly different, right? What I consider stressful to you may not even be stressful at all, right? And so this is where like each person may vary in some type of way, right? But the mechanism of how the brain and the mind and the body works is essentially standard, right?
Right. So let's understand your framework from a very common person's point of view. How do they what does your framework say? How does one get started with your framework that instead of, just thinking about surviving because of stress, they also think of thriving? Should they look at the tiger as an opportunity, or should they look at something to run away from?
Absolutely. We've got to first survive before we can thrive, right? If we don't survive, then there is nothing to thrive. So, so, so we start by surviving, and as we engage our universe with just in our world in general, what's inevitable is expectations and pressures and challenges. We're going to face these things, right? Even if you never get out of your house at all, you can sit indoors and say, "Oh, I'm not getting out the house today. I'm just going to stay home. I don't want to get stressed." And you get a phone call that stresses you out. Something is going to stress you out, right? But as we process this, when we start to get to the point of our biological feeling, our emotional state being out of balance, where you feel like, okay, this is unmanageable, that's where intervention becomes necessary, right? And so, first thing you have to do is calm the mind. Because the mind, again, that's a database of this ecosystem with 50 trillion cells that all have to be in balance, that are all interconnected. If the mind's not calm, then the body is not going to be calm, and then the situation is really going to be out of whack. So calm the mind. And the first thing that we do when we talk about calming the mind is breathing, your breath. And specifically, my approach to breathing is boxed breathing. You take a deep breath in, say hold for 4 seconds, deep breath in to last 4 seconds. You hold that breath for 4 seconds, breath out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, repeat that cycle until you can start calming yourself down. If it's something really aggravating, something more dire, then try holding it for longer. Make it a longer in breath, maybe 6 or 7 seconds. In fact, if you're good at holding your breath, try 10 seconds, right? And then hold for the same length of time, release, same length of time, hold, same length of time, and then repeat. And so what this does is it slows down your heart rate, because when you are starting to get out of balance, your heart rate starts to get out of whack, right? Because it's the fight or flight. You have all of this adrenaline in there, and it has to push out all this excess blood and excess resources. It wants to send to your arms, into your legs, and therefore it's beating much faster and very shallow, right? So you don't have oxygen and resources going to some of the critical cells, crucial parts of your body that needs those resources. Therefore, rest and digest is basically paused, right? Because you don't have resources going to those parts of your body that really need them. So part of the health issues that happen when you're faced with stress is digestive issues, right? Because rest and digest does not happen as it's supposed to. And by the way, the American Medical Association says that about 80% of doctor visits are related to stress. 80%, right? The American Psychological Association says that the 6 leading causes of death are connected to stress. Whether it's like heart disease or cirrhosis or cancer or accidents or suicides, right? These are all connected to stress. So this is something that we don't have the leisure of not understanding, right? It touches everyone throughout every facet of life. So we've got to get this. So we start with breathing, because breathing helps to calm the mind, right? But also the body, right? And then we take the situation that's happening and we reframe it and look for an opportunity in that situation. For example, you have a big presentation, right? And you feel your heart pounding and you feel sweaty and your palms are sweaty and you just feel like, oh, I can't do this, right? That could be anxiety, but that could also be excitement. Your brain doesn't know which one it is, right? So if you take that and you say, well, yeah, my heart's beating faster, I feel sweaty, but I think I'm just excited because good things are going to come out of this, right? This is an opportunity for me to become a much better public speaker, to connect with people. You've just taken that situation. You have made it an opportunity for yourself. Now your brain, just by that shift, you have told your brain, I'm not in threat, I'm safe. I'm not facing a threat, I am safe. Now, what does your brain do? Instead of pushing out neurotransmitters like cortisol that would cascade, like result in a roller coaster of emotional situations, it's going to push down pleasure neurotransmitters down into your body, right? And so reframing your stressful situations as opportunities, that's huge. What else can we do? there's a research that said that from the University of San Francisco that said that positive emotions like gratitude actually repair DNA, where negative emotions destroy DNA. And so over your DNA, there's a protective cap called telomeres. Telomeres get destroyed by neurotransmitters and things that result from stress, where the positive feelings that come from state of gratitude help repair that over time. And so if you can put yourself in a state of gratitude intentionally, right? So if you can just sit there and take your mind back to a time where you experienced something that you were truly grateful for, and you just let yourself relive that. You're in that state. All your senses, this is an experience, all your senses are engaged. You can see it, you can feel it, you can smell it. You're in that situation where you felt gratitude. You have just taken whatever situation you're in, and you've taken yourself back into a state of gratitude, which is a happy state. And so again, this goes back to our goal of entering and staying in a happy state. If we can do that at will, we have found the secret to resilience.
Absolutely.
What else can we do, right? We can, I could go on and on, but I'd like to stop at 3, because 3, I think 3 is manageable for us to process. If you can calm the body, right? Deep breaths, breathing, boxed breathing, breath in 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds, breath out 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds. Play with that time frame depending on the situation you're in. That's breathing. Do that a cycle of maybe 5 or 6 cycles to help calm the body. That also calms the mind. Reframe the situation. That helps also calm the body and calm the mind. Put yourself in a state of gratitude. If you can practice this every day, like just get up and the first thing you do is your breath, just simple breath work. From breath work, you just think about anything that may be troubling at all and just take that and reframe it. 10 minutes, you could do all of this, 5 minutes even, right? Reframe that. And then just put yourself in a state of gratitude. And when you get done with putting yourself in a state of gratitude, then now decide what your day is going to look like. Again, give your brain a reference for the future expectation that you want for your brain to pick up on, so that it doesn't go picking up on the past. Because if our brains go to nowhere but the past, we're probably screwed, right? I don't know about you, but I have not had the best experiences. We've all had failures. We've all had situations from the past that are not the best. We don't want our brains going there, right? So let's give our brains something to work with, right? So if you sit there and you can just visualize, it's a great day today. And we're doing this in the present, by the way, right? I could put myself in my mind, if it's 6 a.m. right now, in my mind, I could put myself at 5 p.m. And in my mind, it's 5 p.m. And these are all the things that have happened. And I'm just living in that experience of happiness and joy and gratitude, right? If you can start, for whoever's listening to this, if you can start your day from that point with those things, with the breath, with the reframe, with gratitude and visualization, I don't know what can stop you, because you're going to be faced with challenges, but you're going to quickly see them and find a way to reframe them. Why? Because you've already done that in your mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I see it almost like taming the tiger and riding it and reaching wherever you want to.
Yeah. The best workout is the workout of the mind. It's great. Lifting weights is great, but if you can work your mind out and train your mind to do exactly what it needs, you've conquered life.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so many people want to conquer life because life can be good, life is beautiful, but sometimes some stress cannot be good. And what better way to use it, rather as a catalyst, as an opportunity. There is so much to learn from you, Dr. Josh, and I'm sure a lot of people would want. Tell us a bit about your coaching method. What do you coach? How do you coach? And so that people can know more about your coaching style. Also, the resources that are available with you in your website.
Absolutely. So you could find me online at Dr. Josh McWealth is my handle across all social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. I think I'm most active on TikTok these days for some reason. My website as well, drjoshmcwealth.com. DRJOSHMCWEALTH.com. Also, my institute, we have a website, Success Evolution Institute.org. That's for Success Evolution Institute, all one word, .org. And my team's working on putting up a bunch of free resources on there for stress management. Because we're over the past half a decade of my life, it's just been so crazy busy, working with folks, and just the level of transformation that we see from folks just going from a place of absolute unmanageable handle on stress to just being like masters in the game, right? And it's just so rewarding to do that. And so I've done a lot of one-on-one coaching, and I am now moving into one-to-many coaching systems. I have a online coaching. In fact, my first cohort, it's full. So the next one is going to be in July. And so if you go on my website, Dr. Josh McWealth, you can sign up if you want to join the next cohort. But even if you don't do any of that, just the free resources on the Success Evolution Institute.org, and we're going to keep putting stuff out there. Or send me an email. If there's something specific that you want a response to, I am very happy. My team, they'll send it my way, and I'm happy to. I will respond to any emails. I will respond to whoever reaches out. I think this is such a universal. This is something that connects us all. It's just we all go through this, and so I'm open to whatever I can do to help folks get through figuring out stress and coming out on the other side successful and resilient.
Absolutely. And my last question to you, Dr. Josh, is you have experienced all this burnout yourself, and now you are living a very busy life yourself. Do you also get stressed about things, or you look at it differently now?
This is an ongoing thing for me. I'll share something with you. In I think 2020-ish, right? My company, we're growing very fast, and we acquired a new company, and it was new employees and new electronic systems and new everything, and so things were moving very fast, and I was moving so fast that I forgot self-care, right? My personal systems that I have in place, my rituals and systems, I just threw it all away, and didn't practice anything. I was just busy trying to work, and my body, I got into burnout. I came down with bad acid reflux, digestive issues, so I've lived this, you know what I mean? And I've got myself out of it as well, right? The good thing is that I know, I'm aware enough to know that, oh shoot, I have not been doing what I was supposed to do. This is the outcome of that, and you can reverse it. And so can anyone who's listening to this, right? You're never going to be at a point where everything's perfect with your daily practices, right? But you will get feedback from your mind or your body. If you're finding that your mind's always, or if you find that your mood is always off, right? You don't find yourself in a happy state as frequently as you should. That's feedback. That's your mind giving you feedback. If you're finding health issues relating to stress, That's feedback. That's your body giving you feedback. All we should do is take that feedback and use it to change something. And I am telling you, whoever's listening to this, I promise you, like if you could just discipline yourself. Motivation is easy. I could motivate anyone. Tony Robbins could motivate anybody, right? It's easy to get motivated, right? But what happens afterwards, right? It's like this high that you get off of after you get motivated, it's gone, right? So what do you have left when motivation vanishes and wanes? It's discipline. You've got to have the discipline to get up every day and do the things that you know you need to do, right? If you don't have the discipline to day in, day out to follow the process that you know works, then you're going to get those negative feedback, right? But as you get the negative feedback loops coming in, just use them and tweak what you need to tweak so that you can get in a happy state. That's the goal. The goal is to get into and stay in the happy state.
Absolutely. Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you having me.